In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. Today, and maybe next week also, we have the readings on the vineyard. And today, Jesus makes that parable on the vine dressers. The vineyard, the grape tree, has a big place in the Bible. It's actually mentioned more than 12 times in the Old Testament, maybe as an example. And maybe Jesus spoke about the vineyard, and the apostle spoke of the vineyard maybe more than 8 times. That's roughly speaking. Sometimes the Bible mentioned the vine as the church. And sometimes it is Christ. And sometimes the focus on the workers. So in this parable today, it's about the workers who take care of the vine. And the vine is the church. And Jesus is going to say that in chapter 16 of John, I am the true vine. He is the true vine. And we are the branches. So the vine has a very important place. I want to start by giving a little bit from the gospel today, and we'll go back and forth in the vine image. So in St. Luke 20, he said, a man planted a vineyard. A vineyard is a huge place filled with vine trees. It's more than one tree. Leased it to vine dressers. What's a vine dresser? It's people who knows how to take care of the grapes, the grape trees. It has some work to be done. The vines cannot be, like some of you have fig trees. If you leave the fig tree for a little bit, it becomes too big, not so good. You want the figs to come good, you have to prune it and cut it down a little bit. You have to make sure that it is adequately watered, there's no worms. You have to take care of the fruit trees in general. Vines even more demanding. They need more care. So if you want to, those are the winemakers in California, do you know that? If you want to have good grapes, you have to trim the tree really down, so it doesn't have too many branches and leaves, so that all the force of the tree goes to the grapes. So those vine dressers have some work to do, and they would take the produce and the grapes, and they will give some to the owner. So he went into a far country for a long time. He actually disappeared for a long time. Now at vintage time, means the harvest time, he sent a servant to the vine dressers that they might give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. He wanted some of the grapes. But the vine dressers beat him and sent him away empty-handed. Apparently after a long time of not showing up, they thought, oh, now we got used to all this income, and we sell most of the grapes, so we don't want to give up any of it. We're not really ready to give him anything. He's been away. Why does he come back? Why does he need to look into it? Sometimes we think this way. Where's God in my life? I don't know. He's been away for the longest time. Let me take care of myself. I'll take whatever I can. Again, he sent another servant, and they beat him also, treated him shamefully. They treated him bad, and sent him away empty-handed. And again he sent a third, and they wounded him also and cast him out. Who are these servants? That the vine, who is the owner of the vine? And the owner of the vine is God. And who are the servants? The prophets. He sends prophets one after another. What is going on? Where is the fruit? We're going to have to talk about the fruit. I'm going to leave the fruit to the end. What's grapes? What's grapes in Christ's mind? And then after the third one, then the owner of the vineyard said, maybe they disrespected the servants. They were little in their eyes. Let me do something much bigger. Like we up the scale on that confrontation. So he said, the owner of the vineyard said, what shall I do? I will send my beloved son. He would be my representative. He is like me going over there. Probably they will respect him when they see him. So that's the assumption. But when the vine dressers saw him, they reasoned among themselves, saying, this is the heir. Okay, we're going to get rid of this problem once and for all. This is going to be the end of it. He's not going to be able to do anything anymore. Come, let us kill him. that the inheritance may be ours. So we get rid of the son, we make sure that the owner doesn't have any power over us anymore. So they cast him out of the vineyard and killed him. Jesus is saying this in Luke 20, 3 chapters before his cross. He knew exactly that's what they were planning to do. Therefore, what will the owner of the vineyard do to them? Now, you judge, he's saying to them. Judge it. What do you think the owner should do? He will come. He didn't wait for an answer, actually. He said he'd come and destroy those vine dressers and give the vineyard to others. He's going to take it from the hands of those vine dressers and give it to another group of vine dressers. The vineyard still exists and the owner still exists, even if they killed the son. And when they heard it, they said, certainly not. Why did they say certainly not? It's obvious that the dressers are very wicked, evil, to the utmost degree. They're willing to kill the son, and they will kill the owner if they can have their hands on him. So why they said certainly not? Why the answer was certainly not? So I give you this case and I tell you, they did this, and I tell you what should be done to those people, and you say, how about killing them and taking the vineyard from them? And you say certainly not. What is the point? Because
Talking about them.
they knew what he was talking about. Then he looked at them and said, what then is this that is written? The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. And the cornerstone is Christ himself, so they rejected it. Whoever falls on that stone will be broken, but on whomever it falls, it will grind him to powder. And the chief priests and the scribes that very hour sought to lay hands on him, but they feared the people, for they knew that he had spoken this parable against them. This was about them. They knew that. It was not something hidden or surprising. So let us go back into the Bible and see how this is actually matched in the Old Testament very closely. So in the book of Isaiah, this is where I want to go. Isaiah has a famous chapter on the vineyard. Anybody knows which chapter is that? That's a test. Which chapter of that? Isaiah speaks the same language, the same parable. It's chapter 5. In chapter 5, there's a song Isaiah is singing. Let me sing to you, my well-beloved, a song of my beloved regarding his vineyard. My well-beloved, that's God, Isaiah's beloved is God, has a vineyard on a very fruitful hill. Means he put it on a rich soil. He chose the best place for it. He dug it up and cleared out its stones and planted it with the choicest vine. He actually picked the best vine can be picked. The best land, the best vine. And he did the best process to cultivate it. He built a tower in its midst and also made a wine press in it, ready for harvest. So he expected it to bring forth good grapes, but it brought forth wild grapes. Have you ever tasted wild grapes? It's very tart and bitter. It never gets really sweet at all. When I used to live in Massachusetts, when you go into the forest, sometimes you have these wild grapes, wild vines, Concord and some other grapes, and you taste it, no matter how red and black and almost like soft, but it's bitter. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge, please, he says, please, give me a judgment. Same thing what Jesus is asking them. He says, what should be done? What should be done to those vine dressers? But this time it's about the vine itself. Please, judge between me and my vineyard. What more could have been done to my vineyard that I have not done it? Why then, when I expected it to bring good fruits, good grapes, did it bring forth wild grapes? Because everything was done to it. Everything in the power of the plant, the farmer, he did it. And now please let me tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take it away its hedge, and it shall be burned, and break down its wall, and it shall be trampled down. I will lay it waste, it shall not be pruned or dug, but there shall come up briars and thorns. I will also command the clouds that they rain no more on it. For then what is the vineyard? And let me just, this is a very interesting discussion, because he's saying to the men of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, come be the judge. I have the vineyard and this. You be the judge. So what is the vineyard? You're going to ask. Actually, this is the vineyard. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah are his pleasant plant. He looked for justice, but behold oppression, for righteousness. But we're going to talk about the fruits a little bit. But who is the vineyard? Who is the vineyard? So he's saying, oh now, inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, come be the judges. But who is the vineyard? Huh? But the vineyard of the Lord of hosts, the house of Israel, and the men of Judah. Who he is asking? Them. And who is the vineyard? Them. He's saying, come and judge yourself. I've done everything I can for you. I've given you everything you need. And I planted you in the best places. I've done all what can be done to you. You took it for granted and you insulted me. And when I asked for fruit, I didn't find anything. What fruits he was looking for? Look at this. He looked for justice, but behold, oppression. Justice is the good fruit that God is looking for. Oppression is the bitter grapes that makes God grit, makes it, they taste it and it's really bother him that there is oppression. For righteousness, but behold, a cry for help, meaning they're in deep trouble, very deep trouble. They're not doing well at all. Woe to those who join house to house. What they do is they break the barriers between each other and try to get as much as they can from the land of the neighbor. They add field to field, meaning they take all these lines, they used to leave a space between each field and other, they take it. There will be no place where they may dwell alone in the midst of the land. In my hearing, the Lord of hosts said, truly many houses shall be desolate, that's what he will do. And great and beautiful ones without inhabitants, for 10 acres of vineyard shall yield one bath. Meaning 10 acres of vine will give very little, means the blessing will be gone. And the homer of seed shall yield 1 ephah, nothing. Woe to those who rise early in the morning, that they may follow intoxicating drinks, they drink alcohol, who continue until night, the wine inflames them. The harp and the strings, they are listening to music, they're enjoying their life, they're just doing everything they can to get everything they can out of life, and there's no regard of the work of the Lord, nor consider the operation of his hands. Therefore my people have gone into captivity, that's the end, because they have no knowledge. Their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. Therefore Sheol has enlarged itself and opened its mouth beyond measure. Their glory and their multitude, and their pomp means haughtiness, and the who is jubilant shall descend into it. People shall be brought down, each man shall be humbled, and the eyes of the lofty shall be humbled. But the Lord of hosts shall be exalted in judgment, and God who is holy shall be hallowed in righteousness. Then the lambs shall feed in their pasture, and the waste places of fat ones strangers shall eat. Listen to this one coming. Woe to those who draw iniquity with cords of vanity. When they want to show off, they bring a lot of evil. And sin as if with a cart rope that says, let him make speed and hasten his work, that we may see it, and let the counsel of the Holy One of Israel draw near and come that we may know it. We want to see what he will do. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. This is a perfect verse for the relativism that we live in today. That's what they call it today. Like people who calls things that is really bad. We know it is bad, but the culture says, no, it's not bad. This is an old thing. We new people, like modern people, know that this is not bad. It's good. You say, no, that's abnormal. That is perverse. Say, no, it's not perverse. It's okay. Have you tried it? Don't judge anything if you didn't try it. That's what you hear. So what is Isaiah saying here? They turn what we know as good into evil. And they say about the evil as good. And they say dark. No, it's not dark, it's light. And they say light is. So is that happening today or it's not happening? Absolutely. In every way possible. And we let it be. And it actually penetrates into the church, and we have people say that today. And he goes on to say, woe to those who are wise in their own eyes. They think their ideas are right and perfect. They don't need anybody to tell them what's right and what's wrong. And prudent in their own sight. I don't need anybody to teach me. And then you hear things like this. Oh, it is traditions of men. Traditions of men. You hear that a lot. Traditions of men. What do you mean, traditions of men? People who say this word today, unfortunately, they say it because they want to have it their way. Burger King. Have it your own way. That's Burger King motto. But that's exactly it. That's exactly it. I want to have it my way. So I call any tradition, church tradition, as tradition of men. Let me go back and I will tell you what I want to focus on today is this fruit that God is waiting for. So what God is expecting. I have, why then when I expected to bring forth good grapes, did it bring wild grapes? And what is the good grapes? Because he's saying, he, that's God, looked for justice, that's good grapes. But behold the oppression, righteousness, and then, but behold the cry for help. What's God looking for, really? You and I are vines. You and I are vines, and we also are vine dressers. But what is God expecting from us? So we don't get the woes that is written in Isaiah or in Christ calling. What's expected of me and you? I love this because justice comes over and over and over and over again. Justice, mercy, faith. Justice, mercy, faith. That is the expectation of God from you. And it's very much clearly spelled in two places. Two places in the Bible, from the Old and the New. It's really very much summarized. In Micah, I hope you can remember that, 6:8, famous verse, everybody knows it. Everybody knows that verse. In verse 8, is spelled out very clearly. He has shown you, O man, what's good. And what does the Lord require of you? What is the fruit he's expecting? What does the Lord require of you? What is he saying? But to do justly. He keeps repeating that. Justice. What's justice? Jesus is going to talk about it in the New Testament in another way. He says, whatever you want men do unto you, do likewise unto them. So I don't want anybody to speak about me evil when I'm not available to defend myself. I shouldn't speak about anybody. It's not justice when you talk about somebody evil and they're not there. It is not justice to take advantage of a friendship to get a benefit. It's not justice to reward parents with evil and disobedience. It is not justice that I have kids and children and I don't spend time with them. This is all justice issues. What else? He said, to love mercy. What is mercy? It's to be compassionate. This is what the apostles told us today, St. Peter. He said, be affectionate to one another. Be affectionate means when you see your brothers and sisters in the church, show them affection. Show them that you really love them. Let them see that you really care about them from your heart. And this is the time when we kiss each other. Mercy here means to forgive and to let go and to really love from your heart, to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God, that's faith. to really know that God is on you all the time. There's no one on earth who can read your thoughts every single second but Him. He can see exactly, not what you're doing. I can see what you're doing. Sometimes I can't. Most of the time I can't. But who can see what you're doing? All the minutes and the seconds and the fractions of the seconds of your life. They tell you humans speak 180 words a minute. And they think 400 words a minute. 180 to speak, 400. And both of them is examined carefully by the Lord, and they are recorded, by the way. Every thought, every action, every inclination of the heart. The man who knows that will really walk humbly with God. The man who knows, the woman who knows that God is actually aware and all these things come to him will bend their head before God. So these are the three things he says. What does the Lord require of you? That's the fruit, that's the grapes that He's expecting. To do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Same is echoed. This is not only an isolated thing. The Lord Christ in the New Testament said it exactly the same with a little bit of a different wording. Here it is. The fruit that He's expecting that the Pharisees could not bring out. In chapter 23 of Matthew, and it's verse 23, He said the same thing. What is required of you, He said. Woe to you, He says, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have neglected the weightier, the heavier matters of the law. What are these? Justice, mercy, and faith. He said these are the heavy stuff. That's what I expect from you. Justice, mercy, and faith. One of the most surprising things for Christ, that He was very amazed. Jesus does not get amazed easy, by the way. But the apostles amazed Him with what? Amazed Him. Made Him so out of His countenance. When they did what? Showed lack of faith. He was extremely surprised. He said, how can you have no faith? How can you walk as if God doesn't exist and live as if God doesn't exist? So this is what He's requiring. Justice, mercy, and faith. When we live, and with the three, that's righteousness, that's what, and in other places would say, that person who has those three is on their way to become a saint, to become beloved of God. When he comes to visit our vineyard and find good fruit, we become friends of God. He would love to come again and visit us and stay with us. God will be your friend if you have those fruits. But if you don't want Him to come, give Him bitter stuff. He will not come again. And the plan was destruction. So what is expected of us as good vines? Expected purity. If I have the fear of God and I know that God exists and He reads all my thoughts and minds and He loves me, that I would do what I can to avoid sinning. And I will ask His help. But don't forget, it is Christ who said, without me you can't do anything. If a branch does not stick in the vine, and this is one of the things about the vineyards. Vineyards are very weak wood. They're not really anything. If you look at the vineyard, the branches are very thin and they're brittle. You can break them easily. So you cannot take them and make furniture or a table or a stool or a seat. So once they are not fruitful, what do you do with them? What do you do with the branches of the vine if they are not bringing fruit and you're pruning them, cutting them off? Burning. It's a very powerful image that these branches is not good for anything. They're good just to bring fruits. If they don't bring fruits, they're good to be wood for burning, and that's it. There's nothing else. That's a very bad image. So you're either good or bad. There is no in the middle. There is no in the middle. Anybody who wants to be just good, that's not going to happen. Not happen. A fruitless tree is not evil. A fruitless tree is not evil, but it's a waste of place, and it will be cut and burned. So let us not do that. Bring fruits to God. Justice, mercy, faith, righteousness, purity. Think about your thoughts. Think about your heart. Think about what comes out of them. And then Jesus says at the end of this, blind guides who strain out the gnat and swallow a camel. Woe to you, because you clean the outside, but the inside full of extortion, self-indulgences. God knows. He said God knows your hearts. And he said, cleanse the inside of the cup and dish, which is the heart and the mind, and the outside of them may be clean also. And then he speaks and continues to speak about hypocrisy. This is one of the things that Christ also hates the most, hypocrisy. That's a bitter grape. If we deal with each other with hypocrisy, or deal with God with hypocrisy. We come to church and become the best Christians ever, and we go on Monday to work or go back to our homes, and we swear, and our mouth is filthy, and we say whatever the world is saying. We listen to what the world is listening. We do what the world is doing. That's hateful. That's bitter grapes. That's not good at all. At all. It's more than a person who's away from the church and do these things. You know, people can go be outside the church and say, I cannot be part of this community. I'm not holy. And they would say the bad things and the filthy things, and they say do the bad things. That's in a better status than somebody who's living that double life. That's hypocrisy. That's bitter grapes. Very bitter to the Lord. So God forbid that we become that. One of the best characters about Christians, I'm going to tell you this. One of the things that is Christians more powerful than non-Christians? Are the faithful more powerful than the unfaithful? No, they're not. Their power coming from their Christ that they are stuck with, as they are branches in the vineyard. But what is different about them? I'll tell you what's different. A true Christian has the courage to admit that they're wrong. They have the courage to say that I am a sinner. I know where I go wrong. And I'm not ashamed because Christ loved me. I don't trust myself, I trust Him. That's why a Christian is strong. Again, the only difference, or the biggest difference, between a true faithful and a person who's not a faithful person is that they have the ability to admit that they are wrong. And that is it. But outside you hear people say, no, it's not wrong. Because they have no courage to say I'm wrong. What do? They turn the wrong into right. What happened when the culture, when the world could not treat homosexuality? We have no way to deal with it. What happens when we cannot deal with marijuana? Because it's too much for us to deal with. We don't have any way to deal with it. So what will happen? We turn it into a good thing. So they say the good, evil, and the evil good, the darkness, light, and the light, darkness. But a true Christian has the ability to say, yes, the Lord is true, I am false. The commandment is good, I broke it. That is the strength of a Christian. Other than that, the Christian has no strength. And then at the end we say, we need you, Lord. We need to be with you. We need to be sticking with you. That's why I need the prayer. I need to come to church. I need to take communion. I need to confess. And I keep cleaning myself with you, with your blood, and with communion and confession. And then as I make that progress, I truly improve. To Christ and the Father and the Spirit, the glory now and forever. Amen.